we've got a session which is about financial sustainability. It's about your running costs. It's not about your setup costs and all those sort of things. So it's the money that you require to keep your shed running. The normal week by week or daily expenditure, and when we look at what sheds cost, the biggest cost is usually the premises. Sheds cost on the whole around about with whatever the premises cost plus £3,000 or £4,000 on top of that for running costs. It's not a great deal, but if you've got a very high running premises cost, and that's that's a bigger hill to climb each year. So today what we got is 4 presenters. Myself will give you 5 minutes in a moment about the Camden Town shed. We've got John Paul Mountford on Pen Shed, providing he can get the connection. Patrick's here, Patrick Abrahams from Frome, and Geoff from Dalbeattie. What will happen after that is there'll be sort of a few minutes for questions, and then there'll be Julie from Ronseal explaining how you can market your shed using help from them as well. So first 5 minutes is really about Camden, which is an independent volunteer-run shed. It's been going 10 years now. We've got about 40 people on the list. We were open 5 days a week. We've got paid supervision on 2 days a week for special needs. It costs £15,000 a year to run. 6.5 of that is on supervision, and 4,000 is on premises costs, and then the rest of it costs 4.5 grand. So we pay for that with. I mean, last year on the last year's accounts, we had £19,500 worth of income. 8,000 of that was from members, and 7,500 was from sales, of which product sales, i.e. making and selling things, was 1,200, 1,200. So we'll come back to how it is that we can make sales without in a different way in a moment. So that's the description of the shed. Our income from the issues with member contributions. So I've got 2 main points I'm going to make. One's about member contributions, and the other's about income from training. So when you're looking at setting up your membership contribution, members' contributions, you've got to look at your overall aim. Do you want to be self-funding? You can be self-funding. There are sheds on this talking to you right now, and Patrick and so on, that are self-funding. It's an ambition, but if you set off with the idea that your shed needs to be grant aid funded, then you'll have a continuous range of work to do there to make that happen. You've got to make your system fair in some way, whatever you decide. That includes making sure you've got everybody can come. As in, if they haven't got any money, what are you going to do about that? You don't want to exclude people for that. You might have people with serious health problems who only come for a couple of months and maybe go off for several months and then come back again and that kind of thing. So if you've got to say a large annual membership fee, that may be disadvantageous to them and so on. But not that those things can't be solved. If payments are set, then you're going to ensure people that make them actually make those payments, if you've actually regulated that. And you've got to think about how to optimize income. One of the ways to do that is claiming gift aid, and you can get gift aid on small cash donations. So there's a huge variation across the country. People have one-off membership fees, annual membership fees. They have monthly membership. They have annual fees plus daily charges. so, you know, by a session and that sort of stuff. If you could, there's an endless variety of ways in which sheds get charged. But normally, in independent sheds, I mean, obviously, if you're part of a larger organisation and you get told what you're going to, you know, they will say the charge is so and so. But if you're an independent organisation that's sorting it out for yourself, then chances are what will happen is you'll get around as a group and you'll say how much we want to put in each week, and the chances are that's going to be the lowest common denominator. So you include everybody. That means you're not going to get as much as you could from some people, well, that's what will happen if you. That's how I think it will go. And what happens, of course, is that if you set a weekly amount or a session per session about, then people will tend to conform to that. They won't do more than that. So the alternative is the donations only, which is what we do at Camden. We've got no set charges. We just ask people to contribute. How that works is, after a couple of weeks, after they've been there for a little bit, and they can see what's available and what they're getting. There's a one-to-one conversation with him, or has been, between myself and each person about the value of the shed, what it would cost them to hire such a place, everything they're getting, the support they're getting from people, the ideas and that kind of stuff, all the kit, all the materials, all those sorts of things. That this is what they're getting. And if they had to pay for that, it would cost them loads. And if they had to go to a local authority education centre, it would probably cost them £20 a session and that kind of stuff. So basically, how much can you put in? So you establish the value and then ask them to contribute. Some people can't really find it very, very difficult to just say how much they're going to put in. But so one thing you can do is you can say, this is the average, this is the total cost of the shed over the year, this is the total number of users. You work it out for yourself. What an average contribution ought to be in order to pay for it, for the shed to be self-funding. So that's what we do there. So we get, as I say, we get £8 grand from our members. Some people are putting in a lot, £10, £12 a session. A couple of retired dentists and was retired servant, they're doing that. Okay, so moving on to training income. Here's if you have a skill which is saleable, you can make a product and you can sell it. You can sell it, providing you are making a product which people want to buy, and you can get it to market and go through, and bring it back again, or sell the things and deal with the money and that kind of stuff. So I mean, we all do that to some extent. We do about 1,200 quid for that because we don't really like it very much. An alternative way of selling is to use the same set of skills and sell it as training. So if you can frame it in terms of a course, then you get people to pay for being on the course. And what we do is we run courses in wood turning. These courses are we get 10 people present. We've got 5 lathes, which we share. It's a way of doing it. We're charging £70 a time per day. So our income's in around 700. We are per day, that is. We're paying the tutor, it's 100 and something. But apart from that, it's all profit because you've got to buy the blanks for the bowls, and we're not paying any extra money for premises on that day. So we make about £500 something every time we're on a course. We're in London. Not everybody can do the same thing as us. We've got a big population to promote to. We have a marketing means which is online, and we've been doing it for years. So it's not, what we're doing is not necessarily possible for other people, but something like it can be. You could, DIY skills are in demand, parent and child sessions. There are lots of things. Just look at your skills. Look at the market. Look around, who else is providing training? How much are they charging? What can you do? I just recommend it as a way forward, because for us, it's all over in one day. It doesn't require us to do any more than simply be there on that day and do the. And as I say, it's just we're paying a trainer rather than using one of our we're worn out shedders. Okay, so that's my the Camden town story. We're going to move on now to John Paul, if he's available. Are you here, John? Okay, we wondered about that. We thought he might not be. So if technology works very well, he's done some pre-recorded videos. Have we managed to do that?
Yes, who you are and give us a short description of the shed.
My name is John Paul. I run the Pen Shed in southeast London. We've been running for about 5 years. Most of that 5 years I've been here, either as a volunteer or as a member of staff. It's run by Age UK, although we do have to be self-supporting. Initially we were funded by the lottery. Then after 2 years we had to find ways to fund ourselves. We fund ourselves with a mix of commissions, of sales, and we use that combination to cover our overheads. Our running costs are about £16,000 a year. We were breaking even of that for pre-COVID. I think probably 2 years in a row we managed to do it.
You mentioned sales. The shed earns quite a lot from sales. Can you just tell us how much that is and what sort of items?
When we do a sale, we tend to make between 500 and 800. Percentage-wise, it's probably 30-40% of the income to the shed, and that's combined with commissions. We do, well, I think the most sales we did in 1 year was about 8, but we tend to do around about 6, of which we will do a bigger part in the summer, so 4 in the summer and 2 at Christmas. But it's been not to move around a bit depending on who's asked us to be where and when.
And tell us what sort of items you sell.
Well, I would recommend always making small things that people can carry away, i.e. things you can put in a bag, not necessarily a handbag, but certainly into a carrier bag. Chopping boards sell really well, banana hangers, toys of all shapes and sizes, anything that's not basically a park bench or a planter. The mistake a lot of people make is to think that if you take a big thing to a sale, it'll sell. It'll not. People will take away things they can carry.
And how many members make things to sell?
For the sales, it's predominantly the women who make the things to sell. The guys tend to work on the commissions, but they do make some of the things to sell. Then the women tend to finish them off. So there's probably a core of about 15 women, I would have said, make the stuff we take to the sales.
The sales. Tell us where these sales take place.
The sales tend to be community events, churches, schools, fetes, affairs. Over the years, we've made good contacts with the community and things that go in the community. We often get invited to them, or we're actually wanted for some of them. We are asked for because they say it just wouldn't be the same without us being there. I would say a large part of them are summer fairs for not so much schools, but bigger ones. We have one here that they call Penge Day, and that's always a really good seller.
And you mentioned earlier about some of the things that sell well. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And for example, what makes the most money?
It's always good to bring to life the things that you're selling, rather than just stand there behind them and let people pick them up. If you say, for instance, this candle holder was once a leg from a local pub, or this banana hanger was part of an oak door, things like that, people like to know where things have come from and what they've been made from and the story behind them. And that's part of your unique selling point, because you're not a mass manufactured product. And the other thing is making people realise that the one right next to the one that they're picking up is going to be slightly different because everything is handmade and hand finished. They're not punched out of the factory, and people like that as well.
How important is finishing presentation then?
Finishing presentation is very important. You want to provide an object that feels like it's been loved and handcrafted, almost special just for that person who's buying it. But it needs to be of a level that if you wouldn't buy it, why would they buy it?
Okay, thanks for John. He does a lot. He sells and he makes an awful lot of product sales, as you see, from a very small physical space. Does well. Okay, we're moving on to Patrick now from Froome. He's got some.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Yeah, Froome Shed established about 7 years ago. It's self-supporting financially generally. We have about 100 members, although suffered during COVID, but we have 2+ sessions per week. And we charge £10 annual fee and £4 per session. Our kind of gross income or turnover in the first couple of years was £4,000 to £5,000. That's now doubled to about £12,000. Our main expense is rent, and we pay commercial rent, which actually felt uncomfortable until COVID came along, when we also pay business rates at a reduced amount. And of course, we've been liable subject to government grants. So in government grants this year, we've got something like 3 years turnover, which is fantastic, really. Now, in terms of product sales, well, a couple of things. One is Mike's approach to, pay what you can, I think is an admirable approach. And maybe I wish that we'd have done that from the beginning, because there are some people who can afford an awful lot more and some people who can afford less than the normal session fees. We don't sell stuff typically. If we've made hundreds and hundreds of bird boxes and bat boxes and bug hotels and stuff, but typically what we do is we have agreements with local wildlife organizations, community groups, and people like local council that says, if you want to give them away or sell them, we'll make them for you. And this is how much it's going to cost us. And in all our commissions, we say, we don't charge you for this. We ask you to cover the materials, and which we'll agree with you beforehand. And then we will appreciate a donation on top. Because the issue about self-sustaining is you've got to be profitable wherever you are. And so typically, for example, just recently we made 7 Swift boxes for a community group in Shoscombe, and they paid, I don't know, something like 5 times the material costs for those Swift boxes. Now, if we'd try to sell Swift boxes in a community fair or something like that, we'd probably have troubles. But because they sold it themselves, that worked pretty good. In terms of where our money comes from, most of our money comes from donations for work and donations for members and session fees. We typically will apply for grants if we've got an incremental cost. So if we've got a cost for, ventilation improvement or any kind of capital cost, we'll go for a grant. And so even if we see an operational climb in say for rent, we'll go for a grant to get us through the first couple of years of that incremental cost until such time as we're self-sustaining again. And that works pretty good. Some kind of tricks that we use is always whoever is supplying the goods, if they offer you something, you say, can you do it for less? And if they say, I can do it for cost, you say, can you do it for nothing? And they will. As long as you don't compete with local businesses, that'll often happen. One of the other things you can do is establish a culture where shedders make a modest donation for any materials that come from shed stock or from a personal project that they're building. Or if, for example, if they're using a machine that has requirement for replacement blades. So typically band saws or planer thicknesses. And that works pretty good. We also have a kind of policy on tools donation, which works extremely well, where we tell everybody that any tools you donate to the shed will either be used by the shed, given or sold to another shed, or given or sold to a shed member from Frome, or anything that's left over, we will move to shed tools for the third world, such that every single tool that's donated to the shed will go somewhere useful, and that's appreciated. One area where we've raised over £700 in 7 years is if ever a bank says to you, I'm sorry, you say, thank you very much indeed for the apology. We want a compensation. And they will give it. You know, we've got over £700 in 7 years. Just every time they say sorry, you say, I want compensation. And the good thing is you don't have to put their name on the website, all right? And typically it's not income that you have to spend on a particular subject area. So it's not restricted. Never compete with local businesses. One of the things that we find works quite well is quite often shedders will be asked by neighbours to do work, and they're embarrassed about asking for money for that. But actually, they're not embarrassed by saying, "Yeah, I'll do that. I'll refit your doorbell. But by the way, why don't you make a donation to the shed?" And that works very well. And similarly, shedders who sell things to each other sometimes are embarrassed about saying, "I'll give you my old bandsaw, but please pay for it." What they'll say is, "Well, here's the bandsaw. Why don't you make a donation to the shed?" And you'd be staggered how much money comes in on that kind of basis. And it's always a surprise because, so a check will come in or a payment will come in that says, here's £50. Charlie gave me all his camera equipment he doesn't use anymore and suggested I make a donation to the shed. Get the shed registered for gift aid. It works pretty good. Just the thing I would say is don't be frightened to ask people to reduce the cost if you're buying something. Axminster are quite tough, but we already get a discount on that. Try and get excellent discounts. A lot of other people will do the same thing. So don't be embarrassed to say, can I have that for less? It works. I hope that helps, Mike.
Yeah, sorry, great. I didn't realise you finished. That's fantastic. I mean, so much value there. Thanks, Patrick. Well, okay, we're going to move on to Geoff. I'm just trying to watch the time. We're 11, so we have another 5 minutes from Geoff. That'd be brilliant. Thanks very much. Over to Geoff.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, I'm Geoff Allison.
Can you hear us, Geoff?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Coming through, fine. Yeah, Geoff Hallison, Dalbeattie Shed, Southwest Scotland.
Yeah.
We meet 2 mornings a week. We have 5 workshops in 4,000 square feet of old advanced factories. We're very fortunate. We get our premises for free. We're a working shed, and we do have a lot of activities that the guys get involved with, from wood shops, metal shop, bike and small engine repair, virography, 3D printing, dye sublimation printing, leather craft, picture framing, and I'm sure I've missed a load out. Unlike some of the sheds you've seen there before, which are in populous areas, we are not. We're in a very unpopulated area. Although Dalbeattie is classed as a town, there's only 4,300 people in it. And so our income is, because we work in shed, is very much from the community. In the year ending 31st of March 20, our income was 33,000. Our expenditure was 24.5, so we were at a surplus of around 10. It was a bit inflated that year because we have a special project, and we were finishing on a special project, which was to build a 100-year-old car, a car which was built 100 years ago in Dalbeattie. And that was sort of 12,000 out of that 33,000 was on that car, which we only built from donations from the community, because we were building on behalf of the community. But from the shed itself, other than the car project, income of 23.3k. Where did it come from? 42% was sales, 9.6% we run 2 coffee mornings a year, one around Easter, one around October. At there we do a raffle and a tombola and a demonstration and sale of work. We had a grant from the co-op. Talk a little bit about grants later, maybe. Quite interesting. They actually came to us and said, we need 3 people applying for grants. We've only got 2 applications, and if we don't get another one, we'll lose it. Can you think of something you'd like to grant for, and would you apply? 1% each from gift aid and fundraising, another 1% from, we have a shop window in town. There's an office which has some spare windows, and we have a little sale of work in there. Don't get very much in the way of money, but we do get a lot of commissions, because we find people look at that and say, I like that, but I wanted it a bit different. And 1% in miscellaneous donations. So the 42% that I say came from sales, that represents 287 projects in that year. And it's rarely a day when the shed was operating that we didn't have one or more people coming in either to pay a bill or to pay for something or to commission something or to talk about something. What did we make? Our biggest income, 29% of our sales, were from large commissions. And that was only 3.5% of the work that we did. Large commissions, the best one was a payment from Ronseal for talent to their adverts, but also to a large oak bookcase, to a huge notice board for a local rugby club, and also, excuse me, for converting bicycles to e-bikes, which is quite an expensive proposition, but you can still make a decent profit on it. So that was the biggest, and 29%. 24% was on recycling, mainly bikes, push bikes. Take them in, do them up, sell them out to the community, 20, 30 pounds a time. We also recycle and upcycle other things. 21% was on home and garden furniture. Anything from picnic benches and whatever. Small planters, feeders and whatever, 8%. Incidentally, just looking at this is the percentage for income. So bikes, we got 24% income and 26% of the number of commissions. So they're about average. Home and garden furniture, again, 21% income, 24% of the commissions. So again, they're about an average price. Planters, feeders and small makes, 8% of the income, 28% of the commissions. So, you know, you've got to make a lot of them to make some money. Engraving and printing, 8% of the income from 16% of the commissions. Picture framing, 6% of the income from 10% of the numbers. And restoring and refurbishing, 4% of the income from 7% of the commissions. People don't want to pay a lot really for restoring and refurbishing. So that's really where they are, a very mixed bag. But because we're in a local community, we can get away with things. If I could just say a couple of words about one or two other bits and pieces. Donations and gift aid. I'm sure we can deal with it some other time.
I bought a shed, I took it home, and I erected it. I bought a shed, I took it home, I'd selected it. I bought a shed, I bought a shed, I bought a shed. I followed the instructions, studied all the plans, worked day and night to get it right with blisters on my hands. And when I put the roof on and finished off the floor, I knew inside my heart of hearts I'd be ignorant no more. I heard a note inside my shed, I suspected it. I felt a note inside my shed, I detected it. I was so scared of what he said that I rejected it. He said, forget about the tarot, the I Ching and the runes. Get down your garden centre on a Sunday afternoon. Go past the cafeteria, past all the flower beds. If you're searching for enlightenment, straight for the sheds. And so we lived inside our shed, and we respected it. I taught him, and he taught me, and we perfected it. And all what a shed.